All right, everyone, welcome back into another NFL DFS video. Going to be breaking down the Thursday night showdown between the Philadelphia Eagles and the Washington Commanders. Let's go on and get into it. So as always, I like to start off with a quick game preview, and what we're going to notice is that this is projected to be the highest scoring game on the slate. Now, it's only at 48.5 points, I said, because last week we had a lot of games that were projected to be very high scoring, but this is projected to be a close game as well, with the Eagles being favored by 3.5 points. With the Eagles being fully healthy, I would more or less be on the side of the Eagles being able to win this game, and so that'd be the side I would want to be on the most. Now, the biggest piece of injury news that we need to talk about is really with the Washington Commanders. So Brian Robinson Jr. is expected to play in this game. He's fully good to go, apparently, which with this being a short week, he really must be. I don't see why they'd be playing him in this game on a short week if he wasn't truly good to go, because obviously they would have that extended time off, an extra few days to rest up. And so assuming that he's good to go, I think we can kind of go back to this workload split that we really saw maybe early on in the season. Now, for making our builds, if you think Washington's going to be winning this game, you want to be more on Brian Robinson Jr. If you think Washington's going to be playing from behind, then you might want to favor Austin Ekeler a little bit slightly more. Ekeler's looked good. He looked good last week, getting 70% of the work, but I think we're going to go back to more of probably a 60-40 split. But again, if Washington is really trailing, I think we'd want to look at Austin Ekeler a little bit more. And that's kind of it in terms of relevant kind of slate changing type news, because after that, it becomes pretty straightforward. Let's start with Washington because they're a little bit less complicated than Philly. So for Washington, we kind of know the two players that we want to be on the most. It's going to be Jaden Daniels, who obviously has been playing pretty darn well this season, minus a couple of really kind of blow-up bad games. And the Eagles have been a defense that have been playing better recently, so that could potentially happen again. I will have a tough time getting to Daniels as kind of a captain's play for me. I'm pretty sure this is going to be his first time playing on a Thursday night, but I have to double check that. Just a rookie coming in, though, on a short week, it's a little bit tiny concerning. And so I don't know, I just have a tough time getting to him as a captain's pick, because I think some of the Eagles players are going to be a little bit better options. Then we look at Terry McLaurin. He's going to be someone that obviously been an extremely consistent fantasy producer thus far this season. I would much rather get to him at a slightly cheaper price tag than Jaden Daniels, even in the captain spot as well. So he's probably going to be the first priority for me for Washington. And then after that, I did mention it's going to be Robinson Jr. or Austin Ekeler. Robinson Jr. a little bit touchdown dependent, especially in this game where it is going to be a much more difficult matchup to rush the football. And so that's where I might be gearing up to get to a little bit more of Austin Ekeler. Again, I kind of am going to be favoring the Eagles a little bit more. And so I like Austin Ekeler, the floor that he has in the receiving game. I wish he was a little bit cheaper. And then looking at someone like Noah Brown. Noah Brown got some early work in the game. It was a little bit head scratching. It's all right, why is he this much of an emphasis right now? It was a little bit strange there. Ended up getting 7 targets in that game, and he has been getting targeted a decent amount. He just hasn't been able to do much with it. And he is playing a lot of snaps, typically around the same amount of snaps as Terry McLaurin, but it's just not working out. It's kind of strange that he's been getting that many snaps, and I'm almost favoring getting down to maybe a value play in Luke McCaffrey, who ended up playing about 40% of the snaps last week. And that's something that he has kind of consistently been getting. There's around 40% of the snaps there for Luke McCaffrey. Now, Brown is getting that as well. Zacchaeus is also getting that. But really last week, we saw the other players kind of drop off a little bit more. And we did see Noah Brown get kind of a little bit more snaps in that game as well. And so obviously, when we're looking at a value play, all we want to do is get someone that's not going to go with a 0, not going to give us a 0, anyone that can get us points. And so if you think it's Brown, go with Brown. If you think it's McCaffrey, go with McCaffrey. Ertz has had a pretty safe floor, and he is something that I see more as my typical shoulder shrug play. Like if I'm closing out a build, I'm kind of happy to end up on him, kind of just shoulder shrugging, going with it. A little bit of a revenge game for him, but it's also going to be a little bit of a revenge game for Jahan Dotson as well, which, talk about a terrible trade. My goodness. It would be fun to see one of those two score a touchdown in this game. Dotson has really kind of been a disappointment, though, and he's not priced low enough for us to really even be considering. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and look at the Eagles. So for me, I did find Saquon Barkley's kind of stats in general last week to be a head scratcher. I was like, what is going on? We saw Jalen Hurts get 2 rushing touchdowns, which is part of the issue with the Eagles, obviously. And I would argue in the captain spot, like if you are playing Barkley and Hurts in the same lineup, I would almost say that neither of them should be in the captain spot. Because if you're playing both of them, like one is most likely going to cap the ceiling that the other has if like Hurts is getting a rushing touchdown. But looking at the snaps from last week, Barkley only got 51% of the snaps. And I was like, all right, what happened? No, he was injured for a little bit of the game. Kind of missed the closing out of the first half and then was able to come back in the second half. So they're obviously going to be both great plays. It is kind of a guessing game. If we can play both of them, by all means, let's do that. And honestly, guys, we're going to be able to do that. From there, we do have to decide between which pass catcher we want to be on. A.J. Brown is typically the one with a little bit more of a high ceiling. You got Devonta Smith, who is nursing a little bit of a hamstring injury as well. He missed practice, I believe it was on Monday. But he's going to be good to go in this game. I don't think we're going to see his snaps limited at all. He is probably the lowest priced player on the slate that can really kind of predictably break the slate and be someone that helps you win a GPP. So I don't mind that. And obviously, if we're playing Jalen Hurts in the flex spot, then having one of his pass catchers in the captain spot is going to be fruitful. I don't mind Dallas Goedert, but I also don't love him. I think I'd rather just get to Grant, the backup tight end, who's almost playing just as much as Dallas Goedert, at least last week. And he hasn't been terrible, and we have seen the Eagles kind of running out a little bit more of two tight end sets. So I do expect Goddard to get the most snaps and probably get closer to 70. But I do still think we can see a scenario where Grant still ends up with about 50% of the snaps. And so honestly, where we're going to be trying to jam in the studs here, he is someone that kind of makes sense at a cheap price tag to fit in there. And then let's say if you are going Devonta Smith in the captain spot, you could easily then fit in a lot more pieces from this offense. Now, I actually kind of like going a little bit lower. I actually like into Luke McCaffrey from Washington in the flex spot. And guys, you could easily make a lineup like this exact lineup work. And I'm kind of okay with it. Like, it makes sense. We're potentially getting, the 4 highest scorers from this game in our builds. I probably like Terry McLaurin a little bit better, just given the value that we have there. And we could obviously switch it up slightly, but like, it's like a kind of a fun lineup approach type of game. But this is a lineup that I kind of see as would be the optimal lineup if we could make it work, but we're just $100 off. A little bit annoying there. Almost works, but one simple change you could do is just get down to Zach Ertz, who I do think has a nice high floor and is kind of a cheap value price play. And then you could go to A.J. Brown or Jane Daniels if you want to do that. If you don't like Devonta Smith in the captain spot, then you could just go Terry McLaurin, and you are still getting a pretty high floor type build here. Again, don't exactly love the fact that we're going to be fading Jaden Daniels, but it is what it is. So let's go ahead and jump into the 9-to-5 lineup builder, see what that's telling us is going to be the best build here. And so as always, going to give this about 2 data points to go in on. So I do like Jalen Hurts a decent amount, but we're just going to go with 34, round up there for him. And Saquon Barkley, we're just going to round up, just giving it 2 data points to go in on. Now, I do want to call it the value that the data is telling us for Luke McCaffrey and Grant are pretty decent values there for them. Like that opens up a decent amount. Now, we do see Brown is popping up as one as well. So we probably just want to cap our exposure to those players in general, but we do want to be getting to a decent amount of those pieces because they do create a little bit of a floor. We see Johnny Wilson kind of popping up in there as well. I don't hate him as a low priced player where if you want to make the lineup path or lineup that you're getting on work, I think that's a decent route to go. So with that, guys, let's go ahead and generate this and just see what it's spitting out to us. And so here we go, basically right on par with what I was showing you guys here. And actually, I think I like this one maybe a little bit more. So we're getting to Jalen Hurts in the captain, A.J. Brown, tight end, Daniels, McCaffrey, and Saquon Barkley. So it does agree with what I was saying. So I actually like that. That's agreeing. Now it is getting to a little bit of Jake Elliott as well, which is typical. Zacchaeus, he's okay. Definitely some interesting lineup pass, though, in general for the slate. Now, that's going to do it, guys. But first, just a quick reminder of the promo code that's going on the 9-to-5 website. It's promo code KEEPCASH, and you get 20% off your first 9-to-5 membership. Or if you're a returning member, take advantage of the promo code. But that's going to be all for today's video, guys. Thanks for being here. Make sure to give a like and subscribe to the channel. Do appreciate that. Good luck with all your lineups on Thursday night and for the main slate as well. We'll be coming out with the core plays video probably on Friday, so be on the lookout for that. All right, thanks for watching, guys. Good luck, and as always, let's keep cashing.